I knew something was wrong, something was off, and I followed this path and I became a graphic designer, which at that time was already a cool thing. Like everyone was like, oh my God, you're a graphic designer, so cool. And I was like, okay, yeah, I have this title, but I don't feel happy with it. And I don't know if you can relate, but sometimes people are fascinated by certain things and you feel empty within. I grew up in the perfect bubble, but there was one thing which I noticed later in life. I was always a bit different in that way. I realized soon or early on, I wanted more in life. What I saw was on TV and I was always like, I want to go to the US and I want to go to Berlin, because in the movies, people who lived this free-spirited life, they were like in the US or they were in Berlin. 20-ish, 21, 22, I decided to go to Australia. Just fly across the planet to the other side of the world, go as far away as where I come from, just to like finally see the world and be, I don't know, in a different world. And cool, but I have had big challenges in my life. It took me 2 months to realize that this was a big mistake, and it took me 2 years to get out of this company to actually go back to school. I don't know, I couldn't let go. I couldn't just quit. But when I made it, oh my God, it was like the best decision of my life. And in that time, I found my passion. And then real life happened. I realized, hang on, I can teach people about food as much as I want. Why is it so hard for them to change their diet? Can you hear that? I hope not. I did it extra loud though. Hello everyone, welcome to this episode of New Choices, where we are connecting to your healthiest self. Everything backed by science, spirituality and my own life experience. I can't wait to go on to this episode of this week. Actually last week, I think in the last video I said we're talking about body today. But then I looked at the list where I planned the videos and I was like, oh no, actually we're talking about me. So, sorry if you watched the last video and you expected the body part. This will be next week. This week, I want to take you on a journey to get to know me better, because I'm here telling you about all of those things, but you don't really know me. I actually know that there is this thing on social media where people share the biggest lesson they learned in their 39 years, in my case, or the biggest lesson they learned in their life, and they wish they knew it sooner. And I also want to add this to this video. The biggest lesson I learned. So I'm sharing my journey with you and then the biggest lesson. And actually, fun fact, I am very excited myself what this biggest lesson will be, because I will share it in a moment at the end of this video. And I don't know yet what it will be. We will see it when we get there, because now I'm sharing my journey and I know at the end of this video I will find the perfect message. Shall we? I'm excited. Okay, let's dive into this video. So my name is Steph or Stephanie, like I'm born as Stephanie. And no, I'm not born as Stephanie. I got born and my parents called me Stephanie or named me Stephanie. I am born in a small village. So I grew up in the perfect bubble. For me as a kid, I was living in the perfect bubble. The world was beautiful, it was magical. It's like this beautiful little village in Germany. 400 people lived there when I was a kid, and you were safe outside. You could go in the forest with your friends because there was nothing dangerous there. I mean, the fox here and there, but okay, you're gonna be fine. Or wild pigs, but nothing really. Like in the US, for example, I know they have bears and everything in the forest. So I was growing up in like this super nice, super lovely place. But there was one thing which I noticed later in life. People lived a certain lifestyle and not everyone was the same, but most people did similar things. They worked their job and they liked it that way. So when you're a kid and you grow up there, that's the world you live in. So everyone seems to like it and everyone seems to be okay with that way and everyone seems to do it. But I was always a bit different in that way. I realized soon or early on, I wanted more in life and I didn't really know what. I didn't really have an example there. So what I saw was on TV and I was always like, I want to go to the US and I want to go to Berlin, because in the movies, people who lived this free-spirited life, they were like in the US or they were in Berlin. And currently, actually, when I'm filming this, I am in Berlin. So it took me a few years, but I'm here and I traveled the world and I've been to the US. So yeah, it was really cool. But I have had big challenges in my life. So even though you see me here now smiling and recording the podcast and sharing things with you, there is a lot of darkness at some parts, which if you haven't lived through them, it just seems like, come on, get over it with it. But we all have that bit darkness within us maybe sometimes. And anyway, I found mine along the way. So I learned to go through the air, which I can also share with you eventually at some point. Definitely had a lot of learnings, a lot of lessons from it. And there's actually something else I wanted to share with you, which I thought was really important. Can you hear that? I hope not. I did it extra loud though. Anyway, yeah, I'm sometimes a bit of a jokey. I love to laugh. I love to be in nature, which is actually funny that I'm living in Berlin now. But obviously, like when you grow up in nature, a city seems exciting and wild. And Berlin isn't for me anymore. I have to say that right now. But it was for me for a while. I was never living the wild lifestyle in the city, but I liked to go to cafes and to do different sports and different yoga studios. And like mainly my biggest excitement in the city is that there are shops everywhere, which you don't have in a 400 people village, and cafes. We didn't even have a little cafe or anything. I love to sit in a cafe, and I don't drink cafe. So yeah. So that's where we started. And then I obviously followed this path as well, but I didn't really feel aligned. I knew something was wrong, something was off. And I followed this path and I became a graphic designer, which at that time was already a cool thing. Like everyone was like, oh my God, you're a graphic designer, so cool. And I was like, okay, yeah, I have this title, but I don't feel happy with it. And I don't know if you can relate, but sometimes people are fascinated by certain things and you feel empty within. And for me, it was a graphic design thing because I knew people loved that. I know people loved doing that, but I didn't feel the love for it. I always knew I was good, but I was never very good. I always knew there are people better than me. And I don't know. I was really frustrated. So when I turned 20-ish, 21, 22, I decided to go to Australia. Just fly across the planet to the other side of the world, go as far away as where I come from, just to like finally see the world and be, I don't know, in a different world. And it was like that. So before I went to Australia, I actually did 3 or 4 months in the south of Europe. So I went to Italy and Croatia to be there for teenagers. So teenagers did their holiday trips and I was there as their guide for the camp time. So they did summer camp and I was there to guide them with other guides. And that's where I met friends, people who, one I'm still friends with, actually. And they told me that I've been to Australia and I've traveled here and I've traveled there. And I was like, okay. Because Italy and Croatia is not far from Germany. To me, that seemed really cool, but also exciting, but also close enough to get there. You could basically come home anytime. So I decided after that, cool, I'm doing Australia. I'm doing it. And I give myself 6 months. I have to stay there because to go there, I had to quit my job and give up on like the safe things in life. And then that's what I did. So I was like, okay, girl, you're not going home before 6 months. And that's your measurement for that. In the end, I stayed 2 years and I didn't go home in between. And my family didn't come to visit me. I don't know, it was at that time very, very, very far away. And especially when you come from such a smaller place, the times are now different, you know. People jump into planes all the time and fly all over the world. But back then there was no social media. It was in 2007, I think. I'm always getting mixed up if it was 2007 or 2009. But there was no internet. Well, there was internet, but the only communication I had with my parents and my family was an email, because text messages from Australia to Germany were very expensive. And I also, phone calls, I had to dial. You had to go to a shop, buy a card with like this long number and then dial the number put in that long number as a kind of a code, and then dial your parents' number or the person you wanted to call. So we spoke about every 2 weeks, sent emails there and here and there, because there was no smartphone with WhatsApp or with text messaging, with Wi-Fi messaging or Wi-Fi calling. These things just didn't exist. And for me, it was like learning to be myself, because when you grow up in this bubble, and it's been this perfect bubble, but you know you want something different, and then you leave, you're totally to yourself, and you meet these new people, and they're all different, and they are all wild in a way, because they all left their place to do something different and learn and see something different. And I always did this brave move. Basically, all of the people I met quit their jobs and went there and did their thing. So it was really, really heart-opening and eye-opening, and I came back a different person. I still, when I came back 2 years later, I actually, on the way, I traveled Southeast Asia. So I went to Thailand. Next, I have to think the same order. So Thailand, Laos, Vietnam. So Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, and over Cambodia back to Thailand. No, so see, I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, and over Laos back to Thailand. That's the right order of the countries. And I was there for like 3 months, and it was so beautiful. And even in Australia as well, I traveled so much. I can go into the story another time. If we have another story time, I can talk to you about Australia, maybe show some pictures, how the times were back then. It was kind of cool compared to now. Total different world. Anyway, I came definitely back a different person, but I still quickly followed back into the old footsteps. So I moved to Munich, the first city I moved to after Australia. Work as a graphic designer again. It took me 2 months to realize that this was a big mistake, and it took me 2 years to get out of this company to actually go back to school. Because I really pushed through. I thought to find the perfect graphic design job. I was like, there must be a graphic design job I love. There must be thing. I don't know. I couldn't let go. I couldn't just quit and say I work in a cafe and figure out what I want and then do other things. And there was no, like I said, the internet was very limited and social media wasn't really there. People couldn't guide you. You kind of had to guide yourself, which is cool. Like, don't get me wrong, really cool, but you're lost sometimes. I was lost sometimes, and it took me a long time anyway to make that step. But when I made it, oh my God, it was like the best decision of my life. One of the best decisions. I mean, going to Australia was also the best decision of my life at that point. But at that point, that was the best decision of my life. And I went back to school because I wanted to go to university. I realized that I didn't like my job so much that I got sick basically once a month. I was hoping every morning when I woke up that I get sick so I don't have to go to work. And at the same time, I thought there must be a graphic designer. I would love the job I was doing because the job was actually great. There was a lot of freedom, not so much creativity, but it was cool actually. For some, they would have loved that life, but I didn't. And I had to make the space free for someone who loved it more than me. Anyway, I went to school because I had to get a certain degree. In Germany, you have to get a degree to go to university. And I had my school degree, but I needed an upgraded degree to go to university. So I went to the Berufsoberschule, the BOS. I started having math again, German, English, history. Oh God, all of these school subjects I haven't had in at that time. Gosh, 12 years. 12 years later, I mean, started maths from scratch. I didn't know how to calculate. I mean, I did the plus times like this, but you know, like the more complicated things. Anyway, I did it and I finished it and I was very proud. And in that time, I found my passion. My passion on plant-based living. Back then, it was still called I'm a vegan, and it was cool at that time. Then at some point, it was very uncool and not cool and very weird when you're a vegan. And I don't know, I just keep saying to people now that I am plant-based because I think it sounds softer and it doesn't have that stigma as a vegan diet. But I'm basically vegan since 2015, or plant-based diet since 2015. I can make a video about this another time, but that's going too deep for this video now. It's already a bit too long, but Anyway, this passion for a plant-based lifestyle actually got me to study nutritional therapy. And I wasn't even meant to go into this university because it wasn't easy to get in. So I had to write a motivational letter. And they loved it and they took me. I must have somehow sounded really like this was my thing. And just because of the plant-based living, I realized that there weren't people there to help me. And there was so much misinformation out there about healthy living. And I'm not saying you have to be plant-based, you have to eat a plant-based diet, but the base of your diet to be plant-based would be very good. But anyway, that's another topic as well. What I'm saying is that I couldn't find who I wanted to find to help me. And I realized, you know what? I want to learn more. Let me study this. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to study nutrition. So I did my nutritional therapist as a Bachelor of Science. I graduated. And my first test was mouth. I don't know how to say it in English, but you sometimes have writings. You write your tests. We don't have the multiple choices in Germany as such. You really literally get a question and have to write an answer. The tests in Germany are very hard. Like, this was so hard. But at the same time, the first 2 tests I had were by mouth. So they asked me questions I had to answer. And I was so bad. Oh my God. This couple testing me, they were saying, you have to get better till tomorrow. Otherwise, I don't see you getting through this uni. I was like, great. What a great start to university. And I was almost giving up. I remember that night I was going to the rooms I was staying in, and there was a kitchen, and I stood there and talked to other people I didn't know back then. I was like, I don't know, I'm not good enough. Like, I can't do that. And this one girl, and she amazing. Like, she really saved my ass. She was like, come on, I study with you. I'm like, what? Like, why would you do that? She's like, I need to repeat it anyway. And if I help you, then I see if I understood it. So it's going to be great for her too. And I was like, wow, thank you. Cool. And I passed. And they were proud of me the next day. They were like, wow, you're so much better yesterday. What did you do? I was like, wow, I can literally do that. Life sent me miracles along my way and people along my way. And I knew at this moment I wanted to give up, but she was there and I knew there was a reason for it. So yeah, a stressful time because a lot of emotional things came up during that time. And I don't want to go too deep. This video is already quite a big bunch of information. But anyway, so I finished university. I went to the first time actually to kind of the first time. Well, I had a job while I was doing that because I lived in Brighton actually. So fun fact, I got my university. I ended my university in Germany with the intention to not live in Germany. I wanted to live abroad. So I moved to Brighton in the UK, in United Kingdom, England. And I was able to because it was a university I could do via online. No, it wasn't online. We had all of the tests, but I had to come back for a week to write them every 6 months. And I could go in there and listen to obviously teachers talking or professors talking, but I didn't have to. I had to write the tests at the end and they had to be perfect. And it was extremely stressful because in 1 week you have to write an incredibly long text and you have like this massive bunch of folders to study and to learn. And oh my God, like my emotions were like, this was actually the time I started drinking coffee. While I studied, I was a coffee drinker because it was just like fucking my brain up, honestly. Like it was frying my brain. Like this was not for me. I loved nutrition and I loved so many subjects in there, but I disliked so many others. But you still had to learn them. And then all of the time I couldn't study or learn on what I really wanted to learn. I had to learn other things. But in the end, I have to say I really understand science. I really understand how the body works. And obviously this really helps me. So I'm super grateful and I couldn't be happier about what I learned there. And then, finished university and then real life happened. I realized, hang on, I can teach people about food as much as I want. Why is it so hard for them to change their diet? And I don't know if you have ever noticed this in your life, but I've noticed this a few times. When I ask myself a question, why is it like this? Then something in my life happens and this situation happens to me, and then I finally understand. I mean, universe, you could just explain it to me, right? But anyway, I didn't understand why people couldn't follow a healthy diet, because for me it was so easy. And then I realized at that time that I was so emotionally drained and so stressed out and consistently like hyping myself up with coffee. Sometimes I was drinking coffee to get a high. Like I was drinking 2 strong coffees in a row to really be like, okay, like so much zoned out in a way. Obviously not too bad. Like it's just this like little tiny high of like, yeah, anyway, it was a tough time. And then I finally understood, because the emotions in a way can block us too. So I learned the body part, the nutrition part, how to nourish our physical body. And after that and during that time, I learned the mindfulness, and I learned to nourish our mind, like how our mind works, how our thoughts work. I also did another study, systemic coaching, systemic training, and business health management. I did that on top because I wanted to understand more. There was a lot about stress, how stress works in the body. Then there was a lot about how the human brain works, how humans do things, and why they do things. And the coaching especially taught me that there's always a why behind the why. There's always a reason why people do something. And then there's a reason behind that reason why they're doing it. And it always goes back to childhood or to a big experience in their lives, or it's always something which caused something. And it was really interesting, and I'm still really interested in these topics. And then after I've been through that for a few years, I realized that there is another level. There's spirituality, which, to be honest, I laughed about when I was younger. I was like, spirituality, like I'm so not interested. And the way I would define spirituality, because maybe you don't know what I mean by it, or you have a definition which is different from mine. So I want you to hear the way I define spirituality, which I call in my program Body, Mind, Soul, and becoming your healthiest self, I call soul. And spirituality for me is a deep knowing of yourself, a deep knowing, a deep connection with ourselves, with yourself. So I'm very deeply connected with myself. But to deeply connect with yourself, you have to go through layers of disconnection. And they always mirror on the outside. And it's really frustrating and really challenging at times. But once you covered up another layer, it's like an onion. You go deeper inside and deeper inside. And the more you come towards the core, you uncover the why behind the why layers, and deeper and deeper and deeper, but always only as deep as you can. Deep uncovering, that taught me to connect to the spirituality. And to be honest, I always had a feeling about that there was something in the sphere in life that kind of took care of me, but I never really believed in the picture of something, or in, like, I always just felt there was something, but I couldn't name it. And spirituality really taught me that it's you and it's within you, and it's, some call it universe, some call it higher self, others call it God. They all have different names for it, but it's something within you can truly trust. And I do now believe that life always happens for us and happens for me. It happens for all of us, even though sometimes we don't understand it in the first place. But we will if we really listen. And I do trust in that process. And yeah, life wasn't always easy, but it taught me the lessons I needed to be taught. Do not start this channel with just talking about food, because it's so much more. Food is a big part. Food is fueling our body. Mindset, thoughts are fueling our mind. And spirituality and connectedness is fueling our soul. And they all need to be in balance. They all need to be connected. And that's actually the next video. This time for real. The next video is the body part. We're talking about the body. And then going through all of these layers to finally like fully understand what I mean with it. And there are some really cool things I've written down already, which I want to go into. Now, I remember that at the start of this video, I promised something. I know that there is people saying the thing I share, the lesson I learned in my 39 years of life on this earth. And I want to focus for a moment, drink a sip of tea, have a little breath, connect to what I just said and see what comes through. So when I think about the words coming to me is that there's definitely something saying that nothing seems as it is. No, the other way. Nothing is as it seems. Maybe not nothing, but no, nothing is as it seems. Everything has different perspectives, different points of views. You can view one thing and your partner or your friends can view it a total different way, and then there can be misunderstandings. And I think relationship or friendship-wise and things like this, I totally understood that the biggest lesson to be learned is that, take for an example a candle. Someone says the candle case is blue, someone else says it's purple. If both people fight and one says this is purple, the other says no, it's blue, no one will understand the other person. But if one person says, oh, that's purple in my world, and I says, oh, that's blue in my world, cool, interesting, now I learned something about you. So that's definitely just like a metaphor for communication that I totally understood in the world, that there can be so many misunderstandings in the world how communication works, that this is definitely one of the biggest lessons, that there is not one thing. Everything is always different perspectives, and the most important thing is that we listen to the other person and try to understand their point of view and their world and their worldview. And people want to feel understood, and I love to, and I'm good in actually understanding people. I wasn't always good in understanding myself and got so much better. Like I literally like now understand myself very well. Or if I don't, I can look at it and then understand it after. But yeah, that's definitely one of the biggest lessons. And another lesson, which I would say is even bigger than this. That's a big one, guys. That's a really big one. The biggest lesson I learned in life, it's actually also a bit, it's happy and sad at the same time. It's sad at first and freeing at last. Because during my life, I met a lot of people. Because obviously, like I traveled a lot. I am more of the extrovert. I'm a really outgoing person. So I'm just like, oh, hey, yo, what's up? What are you doing here? Blah, blah, blah. You can have a conversation with me so easily. It's just who I always was. And at some point, I pulled myself a bit back and I learned get to know myself a bit better. And I got pretty... I experienced a lot of pain with other people, let's put it that way. And I never understood why. I was like, oh my God, that was just like such a nice person for that and that time. And then suddenly like they are shooting at me with words and things, and I don't know where it's coming from. And I learned from Eckhart Tolle, that is the pain body. People have sometimes trauma or pain within themselves and then hurt people, so they let it out on others. And I accepted this for a long time. And I was like, okay, I understand you. Sometimes I even go back first to be like, hey, I know you didn't mean it that way. It's okay. We can still be like friends or whatever, or together or something. And I realized with life that you have to see people for who they are. And you have to give them, or should give them if it's not too bad, obviously, like I'm not talking about people being physical violent or something. I'm just literally talking about like smaller but still painful things emotionally. But give people the benefit of a doubt maybe they really apologize after and come up to you and be like, damn, that was not good. I will work on myself and I will change that to get better. Then cool. That's a person. They want to grow. And if it then eventually gets better or it fully stops, that's good. But if someone doesn't come back to apologize once they hurt you, you are not the one to go there to apologize for their pain they caused you, okay? Like, I had to learn that. I always fixed relationships and I fixed friendships by going back and understanding, being the understanding one and being like, I understand that you leashed out. It's okay. And eventually I learned, hang on, if they come back to me and apologize for being mean or saying mean things, mean words, and being disconnected and they really mean it, go for it, say it. But if they don't, then it's okay to let them go. And this was a hard lesson, because suddenly, when I wasn't the fixer anymore, these friendships broke. And I was like, holy man, I was the one to fix that the whole time and hold on to it. But this is one-sided. We don't want one-sided friendships, relationships. We want them both-sided. And now I have people in my life who are always kind and honest and authentic with myself, because I let the others go if they wanted to go. And now I have people with growth mindset, people with the capacity to actually apologize or notice when they make a mistake and then upgrade and get better from it. And this is so freeing, because honestly, the other way is not nice. And I want to say that to everyone who is the fixer and thinking you are the good girl or the good person to fix this thing because you are I don't want to say the better one, but we are taught that if we overlook things, we are the stronger one to like be the one to apologize first or something. But you don't need to apologize for someone hurting you, okay? You don't need to be the one to be like, I understand you that you hurt me, if they haven't apologized first. And then you will see that your friend circle will change. And suddenly you have like resonating people. And it's not that easy at first, I would say, because a lot of people like cut off, but it's freeing and it's nice and it makes space for the right people in your life. So go cherish yourself, love yourself, because that's a big step into self-love. And I'm going to go and end with that. I see you in the next video. Okay, that was an interesting learning. Maybe I have to cut that video into 2 parts. You know what? I'm going to say here, if it's getting too long, I'm going to say we cut that video into 2 parts. And I see you in the next video. Other than that, if it's okay from the length, we keep it like this. And thank you so much for watching. I see you in the next video. Make sure to subscribe if you like it. Give me a little thumbs up or leave a comment. I love to hear your thoughts, your stories. I'm on this side of the camera, I can't see you, and I love to see you in the comment section. You can listen to this episode on YouTube, podcasts. I think that's the places it will be. So anyway, thank you so much for being here and listening to my story, and I see you soon in the next video. Anyway, stay tuned, subscribe, and see you soon. Bye! On to the next video.